23 now, right? Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraet. A reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, chapter number 23, beginning from verse number 1. So this is continuation of description of Moon dynasty, and then coming from King Puru, and then son of Yayati. Yayati had 5 sons, 2 from Devyani and 3 from Sarmistha. So now he is going to explain the dynasty coming from Anu, who is son of Yayati from Sarmistha. So अथ त्रयोविंशो अध्याय श्री शुक उवाच अनो सभानरश्चक्षु परोक्षस्य त्रयसुतः सभानरात् कालनर संजयस्तत् सुतस्ततः. So Anu, son of Yayati, had 3 sons whose names are Sabhanara, Chakshu and Paroksha. And Janmejayas tatay putro Mahashilo or Mahamana, Ushi naras Titikshuscha Mahamanasa Atmaja. And Sabhanar's son was Kalanar, Kalanar's Sanjay, Sanjay's son was Janmeja, Janmeja's son was Mahashila, and Mahashila's son was Mahamana, and Mahamana had 2 sons, Ushinar and Titikshu. So, Sibir Vana Samir Dakshas Chatvaro Ushinar Atmaja Vrishadarbha Suvirascha Madrakyake Atmaja. And Usinar had 4 sons, Sibi, Van, Sami and Daksha. And Sibi had 4 sons also, Vrishadarbha, Subir, Madra and Kakeya. So this Usinar was a very famous king. He is the one who had the story of giving his flesh to the hawk. So one day he was sitting in his assembly, and one pigeon came, very terrified, and he came and sat in his lap, and he was shaking. So the king was surprised to see that, but then after some time, one hawk came who was chasing the pigeon, and he was hovering around the king, and king looked at him, and then this hawk started speaking in human voice, which is very strange because hawks don't speak. So he said that, please give this pigeon to me. And the king said, why? He says, because he is my food. So he says, well, how can I give him? Now he is under my shelter. So it is my duty to protect one who has taken my shelter. He is completely in my lap, and now I cannot just give it to you and then you eat him up. I am a king, and my profession is to give protection. That's what I do. So he says, but this is against the principle of dharma to take someone's food. You are giving protection to him, but what about me? I also want my food, otherwise I will starve. So king said, well, this is not the only food, you can go elsewhere and find food. Why you have to have only this one? I am not stopping you from chasing other pigeons, but because this one has taken my shelter, so I will give him protection now. So he says, no, but I was chasing him only, and I already almost got him, and now you are doing injustice to me. You should also do justice to me. So the king asked that, Do you want food or do you want this pigeon? He says, you are saying that if you don't eat this pigeon, you will starve. I says, I can give you more food. He says, what do you want? I can give you, I have many other animals here, I can get food for you from those. So he says, no, I only want this one. So he says, this I will not give. So he says, this pigeon is very special. And Hawk said that I want only him. So the king said, this I cannot give, but I don't want you to starve also. So you can ask for something, some other food I will arrange. You want chapati, you want pasta, pizza, you want some macaroni, Chinese food, you want pape, I can arrange some biscuit. So he says, no, this is not my food. So he says, well, if you really want to protect him, then you give me some equal amount of meat from your own body. That is the only thing I can settle for. So the king said, all right, I will do that. So he called for a scale and he put the pigeon on one side and he got a sword and he cut part of his thigh and put it on the scale. But the pigeon was still on the ground, he did not even move it. So he cut more. Like if you have seen in India, they hang these dead carcass of the goats and people come to buy meat and they chop and give. You've seen this in India, that's how they sell. Not like West, all packed nicely. It's right, hang there fresh. They must have killed him in the morning. It's not 10 days old. In the West you cannot get fresh meat. It's all old. You don't know how old it is. But in India you can get.
Sometimes it is more than 1 or 2 months. Also meat which goes from India to US.
Yeah.
It's in the ship and it becomes 1, 2, 3 months old.
Yeah, India exports beef, whatever meat. So you can take it, goes by ship, how long it will take. A ship or maybe by air now. So he kept on cutting his own body, thighs, wherever he had some meat. And finally he sat himself on the scale because he said, what kind of pigeon is this? Now I understand why you're after this pigeon. It really looks some special one. So when he sat on the scale himself, then this hawk, he turned into Indra and the pigeon turned into fire, Agni Deva. So they said that we are very pleased with you. We just came to test you. We have heard so much praise about you, that you are such a great king and you are very charitable and very dharmic. You have passed the test. And then they left. So that is this Ushinara. And Ushinara's son is described here as Shibi. Ushinara Stitikshu Mahamanas Atmajau and Shibirvana. So Ushinara had these 4 sons, Shibi, Van, Shami and Daksha. Shibirvana, Samir, Daksha, Chatvaro, Ushinara Atmaja. So there is also a story of Shibi. Sometimes this story is told about Shibi, what is told about Ushinar. right?
I was, when he said Ushanara, I couldn't figure out who he was. I thought it was Shibu.
So now these are the two different versions. Sometimes the story, what is spoken about Ushinar, is told about Shibi. But about Shibi there is another story, similar. That once when he was in his kingdom, then one Brahmana came and the king received him. And then he asked him that, what can I do for you? He says, well, I'm very hungry. So he says, no problem, relax and I will arrange some nice food for you. So he says, yes, you can do that, but I don't eat ordinary food. So he said, what do you want? He says, I eat meat. Brahmana is saying this. So he says, no problem, I have many animals. I will cut one goat for you. So he says, no, I don't eat animal meat. I eat only human meat. I'm a cannibal. So king was very surprised that what kind of Brahmana is this? So he says, that's a difficult thing. I mean, whom am I going to kill? So he says, well, if you want to feed me, then you have to feed me with the meat of your son. And he had only one son. So he says, okay. So he called his son and he said, well, this Brahmana wants to eat you. What do you say? So the son agreed. And then the Brahmana said that not only that I want to eat the meat of your son, but you have to kill him and you have to cook yourself and then serve me. So the king did that. He killed his own son and he cooked him and then he offered it to the Brahmana. So when Brahmana was offered this, then he said that I was just testing you, and he was Brahma himself. So he turned into Brahma and then his son came back to life. So that is story about Shibi. But many places you will hear the story of Pigeon and Agni about Shibi. So maybe in different kalpas, different stories sometimes rotate like that. So anyway, this shows how great these kings were when it came to dharma. They would go to the extent of sacrificing their own son. In Bible also there is some story like that. So was asked to give their son. Right? Ishmael? Isaac, yeah, some stories there that God asked him to offer his son to him. So the difference is there the God himself is asking, so it is probably more easy to do that than some random Brahmana coming or a hawk, not even a human being. And then still to do that is something amazing. So then it is described that Shibi, he also got 4 sons, Vrishadarbha, Suvira, Madra and Kakeya. So one who was offered to Brahmana was Vrishadarbha, first one. So Shivesh Chatvara Evasan Titikshoscha Rudra Rushadratha. And then Titikshu, who was the son of Mahamana, so he had son named Rushadratha. Tato Hemo Atha Sutpa Bali Sutpaso Bhavat. And then his sons were Hema. Hema's son was Sutapa. Sutapa's Bali. And Bali's story is also there. Little bit crazy. So he had 6 sons. Angabanga Kalindyadya Sumbra Pundrandhra Sangita Jagire Dirghatamso Bale Kshetre Mahikshitaha. So he had 6 sons which are called Anga, Banga, Kalinga and Sumbra and Pundra and Andhra. These are actually some of the name of the states, like Banga is Bengal, Anga is part of Bihar, that's where Karna was ruling. And then we have this Kalinga. Kalinga is part of Orissa. And then Sumha is also somewhere there only. And Pundra and Andhra. Andhra, still Andhra Pradesh is there. So these are the 6 sons of Bali, but they were not produced by Bali himself. They were produced by Dirghatama. He says, Jagire Dirghatamas Baleh Kshetre Mahikshita. That they were produced by Dirghatamas in the wife of Bali. So if you remember, Dirghatamas, his story came earlier. Dirghatamas was son of Utathya, who is elder brother of Brihaspati, son of Angira. And the story was that Utathya's wife was Mamata and she was pregnant, and Brihaspati wanted to have relation with her, and then this Dirghatamasa, he spoke from inside that there is no space here for another one. So then Brihaspati cursed him to be blind. So he was born blind. That's why he is also called Dirghatamas. Not only ordinary tamas, but Dirghatamas means he cannot see. Right? That is. But he could produce, because for producing children, you don't need eyes. So that was his, how he came here. The story is not explained, but Bali did not have children for a long time, and then somebody suggested him that maybe you can take help from Dirghatamas. So that's how he got. So Dirghatamas had his own wife, and his wife was not of very good character. So Dirghatamas was also not always very pleasing. So the wife told the sons, they had sons, that throw away this Dirghatamas, I'm sick of him. So they threw away him in Ganga river. And then this king happens to be there down the stream, so he got him. So that's how Dirghatamas and Bali met. And then Bali said, well, I don't have children. He says, no problem, I can do that. So that's how he got 6 sons. But they became the son of Bali. So Chakru Swanamna Vishyan Shadiman Pracha Kangshanscha te. So these 6 sons, they had their 6 kingdoms on their names. This Angabanga Kalinga. These are all the names on the name of these sons. And Khanpano Angato Jagge Tasmad Divirathastata. And the Anga, who is the eldest, his son's name was Khanpana, and Khanpana's son's name was Diviratha. And Suto Dharmarato Yasya Jagge Chitraratha Praja. And the son of Diviratha was Dharmaratha, And Dharmaratha's son's name was Chitraratha. And this Chitraratha was also known as Romapada. So Romapada iti khyatas tasmai Dashratha sakha. So Chitraratha was Romapada. So Roma in Sanskrit means hair. Maybe he had a lot of hair on his feet, which is unusual. So there was another king, his name was Lomapada. Loma and Roma both mean same because Ralio, Dalio, Rakyam. So he also did not have any son. There is a lot of problem here. All the time you hear kings not having sons. How many stories we have had like that, one after another. So therefore he says that Romapada was also Apraja, no son. And this Romapada was friend of Dasharatha, father of Lord Ramachandra. So they were friends. Because this Anga is that side only, near to Ayodhya, right? Angadesh is not far from there. So they were friends. And Dasarath also did not have any sons. But Dasarath had a daughter, which most people don't know. You know that? Anybody knows that Dasarath actually had a daughter? So Dasarath had a daughter who gave daughter to him out of friendship that you can have my daughter. So her daughter's name was Shanta. This is described here. Shantam Svakanyam Prayachad Rishya Shringa Vahatam Deve Varshati Yam Raja Aninyu Harini Sutam. So this Rompad or Chitraratha, whatever name you want to say, he had this daughter which was actually daughter of Dashratha. Just like Pritha, she was also given like that. She was not actual sister of Vasudeva. So once what happened that in the kingdom of this Romapada there was no rain for a long time. And in olden days everything depended on rain. Now also rain is very important. If it does not rain then there is famine. So that's why Krishna says Annad Bhavanti Bhutani Parjanyad Anna Sambhava, that it is from rain that you have grains, and from grain you have the brain. So you don't eat, your brain does not work. So therefore rain is important. And although there are many devas, but deva also refers to Indra. So here you see, therefore deve avarsati, when deva did not rain. So deva here is not just generic deva, but it specifically refers to Indra because Indra is in charge of rain. So there was a reason why it did not rain, because he has insulted some Brahmanas and the Brahmanas left him, and then because of adharma it happens. The discrepancy which you see in nature, they happen because of adharma in the society. That's why now there are so many discrepancies. The rains don't come in time, too much rain, less rain, hailstorm when the crop is standing. These are all discrepancies of dharma in the society. Previously these things did not happen, and if they happened then people immediately knew that some dharmic principle has been transgressed. That was the common understanding of people. So I remember sometimes it would not rain, like now the rains have come beginning of July or end of June. This is the time rains come. But sometimes it used to happen that rain would not come like mid-July, and people are suffering so much heat. So village people, I remember they say, "Chalo dharm karo." So means do some dharmic act, some yajna, then the rain will come. So they used to do in their own way some kind of Indra yajna, But it was called dharma. That do dharma because they think that it is because of adharma that the rain is not coming. So then he approached scholars, brahmanas, that what shall I do? This rain is not coming and my people are suffering, my kingdom is suffering. So they said that there is this boy Rishyashringa, son of sage Vibhandaka. If you can get him in your kingdom, as soon as he comes into your kingdom, the rains will come. So this was a very strange thing. And this Rishyashringa is Harini Sutam. He was son of a deer. So there is a story for that. All these stories, if you want to read, Mahabharata is the source for all the stories. So there was a sage called Vibhandaka. He was son of Kashyapa. And he used to live near ashram of Vasishtha. And he was very austere, very devoted, and he was not married. And he did not want to marry. Many times you see the sages are married, but he was very aloof. He used to stand in a lake and do tapasya whole day, chanting of mantra, morning till evening. Because morning you have to do Agnihotra, evening you have to do Agnihotra, and whole day he will do that. So he was very austere and very well known. So one day when he was there, and he was very much averse to women, because he understood that any contact with women will just destroy my spiritual path. So one day Urvashi Apsara came there and she was trying to entice him. So he saw her and then he lost his semen, which fell into the water. And one female deer was there. She drank the water and the semen also went inside. And she became pregnant and gave birth to a baby boy. So this sage Vibhandaka, he took that baby, because the deer was also the ashram deer. The ashrams used to have deers whose children were there, like King Bharat had that deer. So it was the deer of the ashram, and that lady was still there. When she gave birth, surprisingly it was a boy. So Vibhandaka, he understood that this is my son. So he took him and he was taking care, feeding him milk. But then he thought that I don't want my son to even see a woman. So he protected him very well. There were many other sages living, they had family, they had wife. So he would not allow him to go anywhere. From very childhood, he kept him in his own ashram and he taught him Vedas and Sanskrit and chanting of the mantras and doing Agnihotra, and he gave him that you just remain. So he will see sages who were coming there, but he never went anywhere. So in his life, he has not seen any woman. And he did not know that there is woman species also. He only thought that people, he didn't know anything that there are cities. He only thought that this is what life is all about. Like what you call as a Koop Manduka, the frog in a well. So frog in a well thinks that this is the world and there is nothing outside it. So for him that was his life. He lived there and he was eating simple diet, whatever was coming from the forest, some fruits, roots, or some of these sama rice, which you eat on Ekadashi. These are the things, this kuttu, that buckwheat. These things used to grow naturally in India in the forest. So they will just eat that. And that also just very simple. There was no spices, nothing like that. Boil and eat. So that's how he lived. So when king heard about it, then he called a meeting that how can we get this boy here? So they said that this is impossible, because if you want to get a sage into your kingdom, what is the big deal? Just invite him. Do a yagya or something and invite them and they will come. All these brahmanas, sages, they come and they get dakshina. So he says, well, that does not work for him because his father does not allow him to go anywhere. So it is just impossible to him. And Vibhandaka is a very strict person. If he gets angry, he can also curse you. So then he did not know what to do for this. So he made an announcement that anyone who can get this Rishas ring to my kingdom, then I will reward him or her. So there was a prostitute, Vaishya. So she came and she told the king that I can do this job. And he says, how can you do? So many great people and scholars, they are scratching their head. They don't know what to do. He says, well, that is my job, how I do it. So he said, if you do it, I will give you whatever you ask me. So he says, okay, I will do, but you give me a big boat and some nice foodstuffs and cloths for me and some other. She had her own compatriots. So that to dress up. So king said, whatever you need, I will give, and he made a big boat for them. So they got into the boat, and there was a river flowing little far away from the ashram. So they parked the boat like few kilometers away from there. And they brought a lot of food because they have to stay in this boat for a few days. So then she had her spies, and male spies, that you go and figure out what is the routine of this Vibhandaka. When does he go out? He must be going out for getting some food, wood for the sacrifice, samidha. So these spies, they observed him. And they said that every day after lunch, he goes away for a few hours to collect whatever fruits are available in the forest, whatever food or some wood, because he was not going to city begging, nothing like that. So they said, okay, that is the time to catch this boy. So then the head of these prostitutes, she had selected one young one who was very beautiful, dressed her very nicely, and explained that this is what you have to do. So she came to the ashram and Vibhandaka was not there. And this Rishi Singh was sitting and doing a japa. So suddenly she appeared there, and she was dressed very beautifully in a silk dress, garlands, perfumes, hair well done, eyes. So she was just looking, and this boy has just, he was a youth by now. So when he saw that, he thought that she is some great sage, because he only knows what the sage is. So he says, he looks like some young sage and he must be very powerful, because I have never seen anyone so effulgent, so bright and fragrant and so well dressed. And he was just, of course, this was his time also to be attracted to the opposite gender. So he did not know, just by looking at her something happened in him. He started having some feelings inside and he did not know what is, but there was a natural attraction. And he has never seen a woman in his life. He has not even seen his mother because he was born from a deer. So he came and as is the custom, you offer water to wash the feet, you give padya, arghya, achmaniya, some fruits and seed. So he came with that and chanting mantra to receive. And he said, no, I don't take this. I have my own. And he thought, well, he seems like some really very advanced son of a sage, because he is not even accepting my reception. And she said that, I don't eat all this, what you are eating, all this amla fruit, and these unripe mangoes. So he says, I give you some nice fruits which you have never eaten. So she gave him a banana, and he has never eaten banana in his life. And then she had some gulab jamuns, some rabdi. So he ate and he says, oh my God, it's like she has some mystic, or he has some mystic powers, yogic powers. That's such nice food, so soft and tasty and sweet. He was just so happy. And then he asked him, who are you? He said, well, we also live nearby. Our ashram is just few kilometers away, and I just came to see you. And then he embraced, this prostitute embraced him, and when he embraced he just felt as if he is in heaven, because he has never felt such embrace in his life. And then she kissed him. So he was completely fascinated by her. And then she said, let's play. So she had a ball and she started throwing the ball at him, and he's throwing, and this boy was completely in bliss. And then she said, well, now I have to go. So he says, no, you should wait. My father will come. I want that you meet my father. And of course, as soon as she heard father, she says, no, I have urgent work. I have to go and do yajna. And now time is passing. It will take some time to reach my ashram. And you come and you see my ashram. He says, yeah, I want to come and see your ashram, but not today. So then she quickly left. And this boy was just sitting there. Now he cannot chant. It's only this new sage is in his mind, and he cannot focus on his chanting, and he did not even do his regular service in the ashram, preparing for the yajna, nothing. He was just thinking of her, and the picture of her is not going out of his mind. And he's thinking, wow, he is really some very accomplished sage, because my mind is so attracted. So after some time, then in the evening, his father came, and he saw that the son is looking very different. He's just sitting there looking into the sky, and he's not doing anything. So he asked him, what are you doing? So he was a simple boy, he did not know. So he explained everything to him. He says, one great sage came here today, and he was very different. And he says, what do you mean different? And he had such nice dress, and he did not have hair like us matted. They were well braided, and he was wearing nice garland, and he asked what kind of dress. So he explained the dress, and he said, and his chest was very much different. So the father, of course, understood, and he says, my son, these type of people are Rakshasas. Stay away from them. And he says, Rakshasa? No, he was very nice, and he even gave me food. So he says, oh my God, this boy is spoiled now. He says, you ate the food he gave? He says, yes. And he also gave me a drink, and it was so nice. After drinking this, my head was going like this. So he says, this person is not sage, he is asura, and they are trying to disturb you, and you can already know that your sadhana is disturbed. Now, next time they come, don't allow them here. So the son did not say yes or no. He says, how is this possible? How can they be Rakshasas? They are very nice. So then she went away, and then for 3-4 days she did not come back. And of course the boy is now only thinking of, he doesn't want to show to the father, but there is nothing else going in his mind. So then after 3 days she came again, and as soon as she came, he ran and he embraced him, and he says, where were you? I was thinking of you. And he says, don't worry, I have come and I want to show you my ashram. And he says, yes, I want to come and see your ashram, but we should go quickly so that I come back before my father comes here. He says, yes, let's go. And then she took him, and they put him in the boat, and he says, we have to go by boat. And then the boat was brought to the king's kingdom. And as soon as he entered the kingdom, it started raining. And then the king was very happy. So the king received him, and he was just surprised to see the palace. He says, this is an ashram? So then they explained to him that this is a city, this is the king, and who are all these people? They look different, all the ladies around. He says, these are called women. And he says, who are they? So they were educating him. And in the meantime, the king married his daughter Shanta to him, Rishyashringa. So that is what is being described here. That Shantam Swakanyam Prayachad Rishyashringam Vahatam. That Dashrath gave his daughter Shanta to Romapada, and she was married to this Rishyashringa. Uvaha means married Tam. And Deve Avarsati Yam Rama Aninyu Harini Sutam. And when it was not raining, then Rama means beautiful girl, means these Vaishyas. They brought her to the kingdom, brought him, the son of Harini. So Natya Sangeeta Vaditrai Vibhramalingan Arhanai Satu Ragyo Anapatyasya Nirupya Ishtim Marutvata. So how did they attract her? Natya, by dancing, by singing, Sangeeta, Vaditra, by playing music, Vibhrama, Alingana, embracing, etc., and Arhana, worshipping him. So that's how they allured him, and he was brought to the kingdom. And then the king married his daughter to him. So, such a change in his life. He was living in the forest, never have seen any other human beings or any city or village, and now he is in the palace, married to a princess. But he was learned. So he performed a yagya, Putrashti yagya, for Romapada. and therefore Romapada got a son after that. And then when Romapada got a son, then Dashratha, he said, "What is this? You are having a son now, and I don't have son." So it is this Rishyasringa who did Putreshti Yagya for Dashrath. And then Dashrath had 4 sons, Ram, Lakshman, Shatrughan and Bharat. So it is this Rishyasringa who did the Yagya. Although they have their Vasishtha with them, right? Vasishtha was their guru, but it is Rishyasringa who has done the Yagya to get the sons. So that is what is being described, that Satur Ragyo Anapatyasya Nirupya Ishtim Marutvatah Prajamadat Dashratho Yena Lebhya Praja Praja. So this Ishti is when a Yagya is done with a particular desire, then it is called Ishti. Ishti means Yagya only, but it is a Sakam Yagya. So that's why it is called Putreshti. Means Ishti which is done for attaining a son. And Dasratha Yena Lebhya Praja Praja, and Dasratha also got sons because of him. And Chaturango Romapadat Prithulakshastu Tatsuta. And then Romapada, he had the son whose name was Chaturanga, and Chaturanga's son name was Prithulaksha. So this is the story. As far as commentary, there is hardly anything on this. Anor druhyos turvasoscha yador vansopi kirtyate jameghantastrayo vinshay kartaviryotra kirtiman. So Vishnu Chakravarti says that here there is a description of the dynasty coming from Anu, then Druhyu and Turvasu, and then Yadu. So ultimately what he wants to bring it to the Yadu dynasty, and that's how you will enter into the next chapter. And then that is the end of 9th canto, and 10th canto will begin. Krishna's story from there. So this is how it is leading to. So Jamaghanta, so there is a description till the end of King Jamagha. This is what 23rd chapter is. Other than that, there is not much comment on this slokas. So here we have Prithulaksha coming from Romapada, and then Brihad Ratho Brihad Karma Brihad Bhanuscha Tatsuta Adyad Brihan Manas Tasmad Ajayad Ratha Udaheta. So then Prithulaksha had 3 sons, Brihad Ratha, Brihad Karma and Brihad Bhanu. And Brihad Rath's son's name was Brihanmana, and Brihanmana's son name was Jadratha. And Vijayastasya Sambhutyam Tato Dhriti Rajayata Tato Dhritvrtastasya Satkarmadhirathastata. So then Jadrat's wife's name was Sambhuti, and from her was born the son Vijaya. And Vijaya's son's name was Dhriti, and Dhriti's son's name was Dhritvata, and Dhritrata's son's name was Satkarma, and Satkarma's name was Adhiratha. So we will stop here because now he is going to explain. This Adhiratha is the one who became father of Karna. So although these are called kings here, but actually if you read Mahabharata, then Karna is always called as the son of a Suta. So how is it that Adhiratha is now coming here in this dynasty, but he is called a Suta? So this is related with this Dirgha Tamasa story. That although these Angabanga Kalinga, they are all kings, but they were all considered as not really Kshatriyas. They were considered as low type of Kshatriyas, Sutas actually. So that's why Karna was not really considered as a Kshatriya. He said, oh, he is a son of, especially these people here in Hastinapur. They thought that we are the real ones. And this, they are not true Kshatriyas. So that's why Karna always had this complex that he is not equal to them. So we'll read that tomorrow. If there is any question.
So we hear the story of King Shivi and of King Utsina?
Ushinar.
Ushina?
Ushinara.
Ushinar. Who basically surrendered to the demand of a hawk or a brahmana and offered without even asking anything, just offered themselves or their son. And we have a very similar story in Mahabharata, where Krishna and Arjuna are coming in disguise as brahmanas to that king who's with a lion, and the lion wants to eat half of the son, and he offers it. So, but on the other hand, we have also the story of Parashuram and Bhishma, where Bhishma refuses to follow Parashuram, and he says when the guru becomes implicated, then the disciple should give up such a person. So on the one hand, we have these cases where somebody, you can say, blindly obeys, even though the desire is very unreasonable. You could say this is adharmic to ask for the life of a person. And on the other hand, we have this injunction that you should give up such a person, even if it's your own guru, you should give up if what he says is against dharma. So how to discriminate, and especially in our case now, where's the dividing line between surrender or blind surrender or discrimination, where we say...
So where is the adharma? Some guest is coming and you receive the guest. And then guest says, well, this is what I want. So what is adharma in that? I mean, from your point of view,
Yeah.
he is demanding, but if you supply his demand, what is adharma in that?
Not
In
just-
case of Bhishma, it was adharma because he has taken a vow and he is asking him to break his vow.
Yeah.
So there is no such injunction that if the guest is asking, then he should not give. Or it is not dharma to feed the guest what he wants.
But isn't it adharma to kill somebody?
But if it is his own son, it's not somebody.
Still, it's a living as a human being.
No, it is human being that's there. But if he is asking that, look, this is a guest and he wants, and son says, yeah, I'm happy to do that. This body is going to be... You see, we have to little go back in time and the mentality of the people and how people viewed Brahmanas in the olden days. Now Brahmana is just a word. That's what I was saying yesterday also, that so many words are only words now. They don't have their original meaning. So even Krishna says in Bhagavatam here that Janmana Brahmana Guru, that a Brahman is Guru by birth without any other qualification. He is saying this. And he is saying don't ever take the property of the Brahmana. He is teaching to his sons. So Brahmanas were respected like that. It is true, I've seen it in our childhood. And we had 2 houses of Brahmanas in our village, and they were completely illiterate. They were doing like any other person doing farming, but still they were respected as Brahmana. They were not doing anything Brahmanical. They did not have sacred thread. Because in North India, many of these Muslim attacks and all that. So here you don't see many Brahmanas that they don't wear any thread, etc. But still they're Brahmanas and they used to be respected like that. When it comes to giving dakshina, etc., then you give them. So you can imagine olden days when Brahmanas were actually true to their Brahmanical culture, how much they were respected. They were seen just like God. Another word for Brahmana is called Bhusura. So Bhusura means that they are the devas or suras of Bhu on earth. They are the devas on earth or suras on earth, Bhusura. And Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahman Hitaya. Krishna is called Brahmanya Deva, means who worships Brahmanas and who works only for the welfare of cows and Brahmanas. Right? So therefore if some Brahmana comes and then he demands, it may be unreasonable, but those people who are committed to serve Brahmanas, they can go up to that extent, and this is what is being shown. So it is not same thing as Parshuram coming and asking him to do something which is against his principle. And this Brahmanas is not saying that if you don't do this, then I'm going to kill you, or they are not forcing it. If you don't do it, okay, I go away. Parshuram was forcing him. If this Brahmana says, I want this kind of meat, you have to kill your son, and he says, no, I will not do it, then he will say, okay, fine. He will leave. That is the whole idea behind the test. So these are 2 separate things.
Just follow-up question. What would have happened in the circumstances if the king was in favor of fulfilling the Brahman's request but the son was not?
No, then he will say, well, my son does not agree. He's not going to kill his son. Because the Brahmana himself will say that I don't accept if he is not willing. So this is what happens in story of Mordhvaja also. That he asked the son, and son said, I am very happy to do that. Because for Kshatriyas, giving life is not a big deal. In the village we used to hear this statement. What was that? I forget that. 8 साल को कुत्ता जीवे और 12 साल जीवे सियार और 20 साल छतरी जीवे, आगे जीने को धिक्कार. So he says that a dog lives 8 years and a jackal lives for 12 years and Kshatriya lives 20 years or 30 years, whatever. He says to live beyond that is a shame on a Kshatriya. आगे जीने को धिक्कार. So they are just ready to fight and give up their life. It's normal. Okay, anything else? Alright, then we'll stop.
So yesterday you spoke about this whole point of surrender, and you depicted the current situation, and I was wondering maybe you could explain a little bit how practically we can assess how much I'm actually following these kinds of standards and ideal that you were depicting.
Yeah, but this is what I was saying. How will you assess when you don't have the standard to assess? This was my whole talk. That's what I was saying. If you don't know what it means to have a friend,
Yes.
so how will you assess whether you are actually having a friend or not a friend? You are actually having friendship or not?
So what's happening is that I hear some examples and then I can compare how I'm dealing in the practical situations, doing seva and so on.
Yeah, so same. You can see these are the examples which are being depicted here. That's when the stories are being told. But it's again not easy, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Because assessment you are going to do with your own mind. And your own mind has got your own concept. Because whatever you do, you compare. And the stories are also there to compare myself and my standard or my advancement or my status where I stand. But if I have got my definitions messed up, then that is how I am going to compare. First of all, it is very difficult for one to see that I am not like this. It is more to think that actually I am also like that. I am surrendered.
That's a typical trick, no? That I'm actually acting like this because I always feel that
Yeah.
I'm doing the right thing and I'm
Because if you don't feel like this, then you will be troubled. So your mind always makes you feel that you are right and it's others who have problem. I am surrendered, I am devoted, I am not envious. It is only others who have these problems and they think like this about me. So that's the difficulty. So we have two difficulties. One is the difficulty of my own definition or my own standard against which I compare. And the second is my own bias against others and favoring myself. So this is how it creates problem, or does not allow me to see myself clearly. Because it is very painful for you to accept that I am wrong. So therefore all the time my mind, my intelligence, my ahankara works to prove to myself that I am right. And anyone who does not agree with me to prove to me that they are wrong. This is the natural state of our psyche. So that's why the stories, and that's why in India they have this custom of having a guru. This is the purpose. Because you yourself, unless you are super smart spiritually, you may be super smart materially, it's not possible. So this whole idea of having a guru and surrendering to guru and having faith in guru and seeing Guru as God, all this is done only with this intention. Because then there is a possibility that you can actually listen to the Guru and not to your own mind. That is the idea. Otherwise you can talk to anybody, everybody in their own way is perfect. Even when they will say that actually I have this problem, inside they will have some explanation why it is alright to have this problem. Or if I have it, why this problem is because of others, because of my upbringing, because of my environment, because of this person, that person, but I myself am alright. So you will find even then, even when you think or you know that actually I have this problem, even then you will rationalize it. Why still it is not such a big problem? Or at least I am not as bad as so and so. I am not as angry as this person, I am not as envious as this person, I am not as, whatever. So you will find something. You have to find something to remain in your comfort zone. So this is the beauty of human mind. So we are always comparing with others, but comparison is done in a way to satisfy myself. You can also do it other way around, to actually see where do I stand and how I'm not as good as others are and how I can improve. That is difficult. So this idea of being perfect is very much inside. Right? So God has, there's a saying, I think from one of the Arabian countries, that when God sends you into this world, He puts a mantra in your ear and He says, you are the best. I have not created anyone like you. So you come with this. Okay.